you have not seen this, you will see this now. Now, Aaron Maté was recently on Tucker Carlson's show. Yes, he was interviewed by Tucker Carlson. For the people who are going to come at me and say, why do people always go on Fox News? I don't know. Maybe they're not being invited on CNN or MSNBC. So, but Tucker Carlson had him come on to talk about Ukraine funding, specifically in reference to why the progressives are complicit with it and why they're not speaking up against it. And I think that's a fair question. And we've been talking about that as well. We've talked about it on RBN. It's noticeable. We see you. And it's not the only thing that they've done, that they haven't been doing what they should do. So I'm going to play this clip of this interview with Aaron Maté and Tucker Carlson. And then we're going to do a little bit of a deep dive and see exactly what went wrong here with these Justice Democrats in particular. We're going to take a look at what they were supposed to be doing according to the pledge that they signed. And we're going to take a look at whether or not they're actually even socialist. So we're going to put all that together and we're going to get an answer here. So let's go ahead and play this clip. Shout out to Case Study QB for this clip here. And here we go.
So where are the real liberals? Where are the real progressives? Well, Aaron Maté seems like one of them. He works the gray zone. He's on to this. He joins us tonight. Aaron Maté, thanks so much for coming on. So we don't spend a ton of time worrying about the state of the progressive movement because I'm speaking for myself, not a progressive. But it would be nice to have an actual progressive stand up and point out that this is truly nuts. Where are they?
Look, Tucker, I'm someone who was very inspired by the squad when all of them first ran. I think all of them have shown courage, and I agree with the domestic policies that they support, especially Medicare for all. And also, I'm a big fan of Chapo Trap House. I'm seeing their live show tomorrow. But right now, overall, the progressive movement, when it comes to the most important issue in the world, is dead. We have a proxy war against a nuclear armed power. The active U.S. policy, as Lloyd Austin made clear, is not to defend Ukraine. It's to weaken Russia. People like Lindsey Graham have said out loud that as long as we arm Ukraine, they will fight to the last person. And where are progressives on this? Every single time the Ukraine proxy wars come up for a vote, they voted in lockstep for it. Every single Democrat, including Bernie Sanders. Even as
That's right. Let's go back to the beginning here because there's something I noticed that Tucker Carlson did, and I want to correct Tucker Carlson on that. See, sometimes people talk fast and these things aren't noticed. Listen to this.
So where are the real liberals? Where are the real progressives? Well, Aaron Maté seems like one of them.
Okay. He said, where are the real liberals? Where are the real progressives? Where are the liberals? Where are the progressives? Listen to this. Make sure I'm hearing this correctly. Listen to what he says.
So where are the real liberals? Where are the real progressives? Well, Aaron Maté.
So where are the real liberals? Where are the real progressives? Problem number one. Liberal and progressive is not the same thing. And I have to say this because the number of times I've seen them do this on Fox News where they make it seem like liberal and progressive and liberal and left is the same thing. It's not the same thing. So let me break this down. Liberals are fine with the status quo. They may be good on some social issues. They may agree that, yeah, people should be able to marry whoever they want. They may agree on that. They may agree that it's a woman's right to choose. But when it comes to actually reforming the system or tearing the system down and rebuilding the system, they're not with that. Liberals aren't into that. They're fine with the status quo. Liberals, for the most part, don't have an issue with these politicians accepting corporate money. For the most part, they don't. And you'll hear them make comments like, that's the way it's always been done. Actually, it hasn't always been that way, but probably in their lifetime. So I have to say this because I've seen Fox News do this often where they try to use those words interchangeably. They're not the same. Had to do that. Sorry, had to go there. All right, let's go back in.
Maté seems like one of them. He works for the gray zone. He's on to this. He joins us tonight. Aaron Maté, thanks so much for coming on. So we don't spend a ton of time worrying about the state of the progressive movement because I'm speaking for myself, not a progressive. But it would be nice to have an actual progressive stand up and point out that this is truly nuts. Where are they?
Look, Tucker, I'm someone who was very inspired by the squad when all of them first ran. I think all of them have shown courage, and I agree with the domestic policies that they supported, especially Medicare for all. And also...
Okay. So Aaron Maté just said, look, I supported the progressives in Congress. I agreed with the policies, the domestic ones that they ran on Medicare for all. So this isn't someone who was a squad hater from the beginning. Like a lot of us, we're not squad haters in the beginning. We supported them. And I will go on further to say that out of all the people that after Force the Vote were like, a lot of us were just like, screw this, man. They're fake. They're frauds. They're not who they said they were. Aaron Maté was not one of those people. So he gave them more of a chance than some of us did. He gave them more of a chance than I did, basically. And when I interviewed him last year, I did ask him about the squad. And he did say that, yeah, there's some things where they've messed up, but he also felt like they were given too much harsher criticism. But now even he sees the problem with the squad. What does that tell you, you guys? What does that tell you? Let's go on. I'm going to go deeper into that in a second.
I'm a big fan of Chapo Trap House. I'm seeing their live show tomorrow. But right now, overall, the progressive movement, when it comes to the most important issue in the world, is dead. We have a proxy war against a nuclear armed power. The active U.S. policy, as Lloyd Austin made clear, is not to defend Ukraine, it's to weaken Russia. People like Lindsey Graham have said out loud that as long as we arm Ukraine, they will fight to the last person. And where are progressives on this? Every single time the Ukraine proxy war has come up for a vote, they voted in lockstep for it. Every single Democrat, including Bernie Sanders.
Including Bernie Sanders. They all have voted for it. The progressives. And we're going to break down this progressive ideology after this clip because I'm going to tell you why that's problematic according to what they signed on to.
As news has come out that the U.S. has sabotaged peace talks, even as Joe Biden, as you just played, openly says he won't negotiate with Russia to end this war. There is no force in Washington right now for sanity, calling for diplomacy, which I thought is what being a progressive is supposed to be about. And you saw in that clip a very angry expression from those protesters feeling let down by their progressive elected representatives.
He's referring to the clip that we talked about last night where Jose stood up and called out AOC for, supporting funding Ukraine. That's the clip that he's referring to. But here's something here. Listen to this again. This little piece, this piece right here.
Is what being a progressive is supposed to be about. And you saw in that clip
is what being a progressive is supposed to be about. This piece right here.
Force in Washington right now for sanity, calling for diplomacy, which I thought is what being a progressive is supposed to be about. And you saw
calling for diplomacy, what being a progressive is supposed to be about. They've definitely strayed. They've definitely strayed away from what's considered progressive. And I told you guys again, whether Jose was a Tulsi supporter or not, that still doesn't mean that his criticism against AOC was incorrect. His criticism against AOC was correct. So when he told AOC, you're supposed to be a progressive socialist with the question mark at the end, he had every right to ask that question. Because how could you support this? Let's go on.
On that clip, a very angry expression from those protesters feeling let down by their progressive elected representatives.
Yeah, I mean, if Marjorie Taylor Greene is more anti-war than Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez, and she is, then we're an upside-down world. Like, this is true craziness. Will this change, or is she in for as long as it takes, too?
And if Marjorie Taylor Greene can stand up and say those things and speak out, and by the way, From what I've seen, Marjorie Taylor Greene has been removed from committee assignments. Not Kyrsten Sinema, not Joe Manchin, even though they've sabotaged legislation all last year. They haven't been, Joe Manchin hasn't been removed from any committee assignments. Marjorie Taylor Greene has, and she still says what she wants to say. She does what she wants to do, and she says what she wants to say, but I'm supposed to sit here and believe that the members of the squad can't speak up?
Well, look, a major problem in the Democratic Party has been the propaganda campaign known as Russiagate. For 6 years, Democrats have been taught to believe that Russia is an existential enemy that can brainwash millions of Americans into not supporting Hillary Clinton and swinging elections. And then now, accordingly, when it comes to this proxy war, that there's no point in negotiating with them, even though, by the way, Russiagate has been used to undermine a progressive agenda, not just being used to funnel billions of dollars into the military-industrial complex, but also has been used to sabotage progressive candidates. Remember Bernie Sanders? Bernie Sanders in 2016 came very close to winning the Democratic Party nomination. Hillary Clinton lost that race to Donald Trump. Hillary Clinton responded by blaming Russia for everything and concocting a conspiracy theory that Trump was a Russian asset. Bernie Sanders, instead of calling that out, went along with it, and he was rewarded in 2020 when he was surging in the primaries before Nevada. He was Russiagated. Some leaks were made that were accusing Russia of supporting him. So that's how the Democratic Party rewards even progressives who are loyal to their agenda. And if that doesn't wake them up, then maybe the increasing prospect of nuclear war should.
Let's talk about that piece there for just a second. The piece about, oh, that was a bad place to stop it, but here we go. Let's talk about that piece that he just mentioned about the Democrat loyalty in reference to Russiagate, right? Russiagate was something that was used also, I would add, as an excuse as to why Hillary Clinton didn't win. We'll add that in there as well. And also, yes, it was used as a piece, as a tool to stop progressive voices. It was used as a piece to stop someone like Bernie Sanders. That was just another thing to use against him, right? If you pay close attention to what happened during that time, I will tell you the reason why the squad isn't speaking up is because they don't want the Democratic Party to do what they did to Tulsi Gabbard to them. Because let's all go back and remember 2016 campaign. Remember, Tulsi Gabbard did not support Hillary Clinton. When it came time for her to announce her endorsement, she endorsed Bernie Sanders. Do you think the Democratic Party liked that? You think the DNC liked that? No. They were pretty much grooming her to be the future of the White House. They really wanted to put Tulsi there. She was supposed to be their darling DNC. So when Tulsi Gabbard did what they did not want her to do, and she endorsed Bernie Sanders over Hillary Clinton, what happened to Tulsi Gabbard after that? Then she even still tried to run for president in 2020. Democratic Party and want nothing to do with Tulsi Gabbard after that. Nothing. The squad doesn't want the Democratic Party to do what they did to Cynthia McKinney to them. You see, the people who do speak up and out more often, I don't want to say just once, I'm talking about more often, those people are gone. And if they don't push you out, or if they don't kick you out by having someone primary against you, you end up leaving on your own because you can't deal with it anymore. So I give props to Cynthia McKinney for reals, because she knew, and she's been on there multiple times. She'll tell you she knew what was up. She had been there long enough to see. That's why you don't see them speaking out about it, because at the end of the day, they still want to have a career in the Democratic Party. They still want that salary. They still want those book deals. They still want that lifestyle. And they know if they're going to have a future in the Democratic Party, There's just certain things they're not going to be able to speak out on. Now, don't get me wrong. When I showed you the way that they voted, there were some times where they did not vote in lockstep with Nancy Pelosi. But trust, those were approved. Notice you never see them vote against Nancy Pelosi or not go along with Nancy Pelosi when their vote can actually matter, when their vote can actually impact and affect legislation. You never see them do it. Not once. Name one. When have they used their leverage to hold up legislation that should not have gone through? When? And people say, oh, the infrastructure bill, they already had the votes. So if you know you already got the votes, yeah, it makes sense for you. Oh, let's show that we're the squad and yet let's use our leverage. They already knew they had the votes. So them voting against it, they knew it wouldn't matter. You see how it works? This is exactly how it works. It's a lot of performative. They put on this air like they're going to do something without actually doing anything. And now you hear from someone like Aaron Maté, like I told you, who was not one of those first people to call out after Force the Vote fraud squad. He wasn't one of those people. He still wanted to give them a chance. Now even he tapped out. I'm out. If he was in the ring, he tapped out. Okay. Now we're going to go do a deeper dive into this because we're going to see why is this happening though? And I told you about the career part, but I think it's really important that we look at, I have an opinion piece that I want to show you. So we're going to look at this first, and then I'm going to show you what they signed on to when they became a part of Justice Democrats. And we're going to go through and we're going to see what they're doing and what they're not doing. Now, this is an opinion piece. And this was written by Leonard Goodman. This was written last year. And he said, what happened to the squad? Now, we're not going to read the entire article, but there is a piece here that I do want to highlight. And I think we need to pay attention to this. Now, he is talking about Medicare for all. Consequently, I lost my spot. I'm sorry. Where did I go? I shouldn't have increased the font. And now I'm like, oh, there it is. Okay. Consequently, Medicare for all is more popular than ever, favored by 85% of Democratic voters and about half of Republican voters. Yet, Democratic Party leadership still refuses to even hold hearings on the bill. So when people like Rokana tell you they don't have the votes, I just want you to know they're not even having the hearings either. Biden's plan to deal with the crisis, he's talking about the pandemic, is to give more taxpayer money to health insurance company giveaway programs like COBRA and ACA. By the way, COBRA is absolutely horrible. Horrible. Is expensive. Early in the pandemic, President Trump promised to have the government pay everyone's pandemic bills. This promise quickly vanished after health insurance companies saw it as a major threat to their industry. Now, this goes on, but this is the piece I want to address right here. What happened to the squad? Just a few years ago, Democratic voters elected a group of progressives who promised to go to Washington, D.C. and start a political revolution. Led by AOC of New York, the squad promised to take on corporate wing of the Democratic Party. Note that word, promised. To take on the corporate wing of the Democratic Party and fight for programs that benefit working people over the donor class. First on their list was Medicare for all. It is sad to report that in just a few short years, the squad has collapsed into a puddle of excuses and Twitter spats. Speaker Nancy Pelosi has demanded all hands on deck to protect the party's donors in this unique time of crisis. And the squad has fallen in line. As I wrote in a previous column, because of the Democrats' slim majority in the House, just a handful of progressives had the power to demand a vote on Medicare for all. If they chose to exercise that power on behalf of working people, AOC and her colleagues did not force a vote on Medicare for all. Instead, they stood with Pelosi and the donors in keeping the bill off the floor of the House. And I do have to add this here for people who are still against force the vote. This strategy is in the DSA handbook. It's online. You can look it up for yourself. I've read through it. That's where the strategy comes from. So when people were criticizing Jimmy Dore, which again, this was a personality conflict more so than anything. When people were criticizing Jimmy Dore was just following a strategy that is in the DSA handbook, which their DSA members, they should be following anyway. Let's go on. The squad did not coordinate their votes last month, but it was not to help. The squad did coordinate their votes last month, but it was not to help working people. You see this running theme here? This is something that I've been talking about recently with the squad. Their base has mainly become the academic elite. That's who their base is. Their base was supposed to be working class people, right? There were a lot of working class people that supported them in the beginning. Their base is now people who have money. So they may not be taking corporate money, but their base is still, it's that same class as the corporate Democrats. Rather, 3 out of 6 squad members, including AOC, agreed to vote present to assure passage of a bill to increase funding for the Capitol Police. All 6 members of the squad told activist groups that they opposed the bill. AOC and the other abstainers spent a year chanting and tweeting that the police should be defunded. Remember when they were all for defunding the police? But then behind closed doors, they coordinated their votes so the bill could pass by a 1-vote margin. And I'm glad that he pointed this out, that they coordinated their votes, because they did. Notice that every now and then one of them will swap out and they'll be the person that's kind of the rotating villain. They take turns. This is on purpose. Even worse, the squad have run interference for President Biden, discouraging their millions of followers on social media from demanding that he keep his campaign promise. Biden has already abandoned every promise he made to the working people, including a $15 minimum wage, a public option to compete with the for-profit insurance industry, forgiveness of student loan debt, which he did some of that. And even some of that was changed. Lowering of the Medicare eligibility age and the promise to negotiate drug prices. Yet AOC asserted that Biden has exceeded her expectations, while Representative Jayapal gave Biden an A grade for his performance thus far. What passes for the left in the Democratic Party has mastered the art of performative resistance. And this is the part I want everyone to pay close attention to. What passes for the left in the Democratic Party has mastered the art of performative resistance. They tweet out anti-establishment rhetoric, but behind closed doors, they play for Team Blue, which means they play for Team United Healthcare, Team Humana, and Team Raytheon. It's basically pretending that they pretend like they're fighting for you without actually fighting for you. They try to make it look like they're doing it, but they're not doing it. This piece right here is the most important passage of this article here, this opinion piece. Behind closed doors, they are still playing for Team Blue. They're not going up against the corporate Democrats. That's the problem. The collapse of the squad shows that change will not come from inside the Democratic Party. And again, honestly, reading this, you would think that I wrote this. Maybe my comrades at RBN wrote this. Maybe Nick wrote this. Maybe JB, CJ, maybe Jimmy Dore wrote this. We didn't write this. And this shows you we're not the only people that see it. The collapse of the squad shows that change will not come from inside the Democratic Party. The two corporate parties that control Washington, D.C. are rotten to the core. It is a fool's errand to think that we can make the Democrats fight for working people while the party's major donors are telling them to keep the status quo. It's time for progressives to walk away from the Democratic Party and support a third party that is free of corporate influence. Again, this did not come from me, but I damn sure have said it. And for people, if you want to read the full article, it's longer than what I read. I'll give you the link here in the chat. And that way you can read the entire article. But this article was written last year. What happened to the squad? Now, we're going to dive a little bit deeper here because there's something I wanted to put in here. Let me remove myself here because I put up the wrong link. Thought I put up that link, but I didn't. Oh, I did put it up. Oh, I did. I just didn't open the window. Okay. We're going to look at what they were supposed to do. And I actually have a list. As you guys know, I come with the receipts. We're going to look at the ideology and political issues, what was supposed to happen. And let's make this bigger. Okay, let me go. Look, let's look at this. This is Justice Democrats. This is the piece that's important right here. To accompany its launch, Kulinski and Uygur published the following set of progressive founding principles for the coalition. These are the principles. These are the principles. So let's see what they're supposed to be doing. Creating a new infrastructure program called the Green New Deal. You know what's interesting? That it says a new because it wasn't new. The Green Party had the Green New Deal. You see how they take stuff from the third? Let's just go on. Ending arms sales to countries that it says violate human rights, such as Saudi Arabia, Israel, and Egypt. Say what now? Ending arms sales to countries that it says violate human rights, Saudi Arabia, Israel, and Egypt. So even here, they were letting you know that Israel was violating human rights. But the squad members, with the exception of Rashida Tlaib, and that's because she is Palestinian, the squad members were back in Israel. Take notes. Take notes, guys. This is too crazy to believe. Enacting a federal job guarantee, which would promise all Americans a good paying job, $15 per hour plus benefits. Have they written any type of bills or legislation for the federal jobs guarantee? See, this is supposed to be some stuff that they're supposed to be doing. Ending the death penalty. Ending the practice of unilaterally waging war, except as a last resort to defend U.S. territory. Ending the practice of unilaterally waging war. So when we look at this conflict here with Russia and Ukraine, what was that? With them voting to fund them. Ending the war on drugs in favor of legalization, regulation, taxation of drugs, and pardoning all nonviolent drug offenders and treating all drug addicts. That's interesting. Treating all drug addicts, because even nothing. I ain't gonna get on my TYT spill tonight. Listen to this, guys. Ensuring free speech on college campuses and supporting net neutrality. Now, Ron Baclone was just on here last night talking about the net neutrality legislation that still hasn't even been, what's happening? Ensuring universal education as a right, including free for public college and university education. Again, where is the legislation? What are they doing? And I'm not saying everything is going to be brought to the floor for a vote, but these are the things they're supposed to be doing, you guys. Let's go on. Ensuring universal health care as a right, which is why they should have forced the vote. Establishing paid maternity leave, paid vacation leave, and free childcare. And here it says establishing. They are supposed to be leading this. Expanding anti-discrimination laws to apply to LGBT. We forgot the Q here. People. Expanding background checks on firearms and banning high-capacity magazines and assault weapons. Funding Planned Parenthood and other contraception and abortion services and recognizing reproductive rights. They're supposed to be funding it themselves. Okay. Implementing electoral reform and public financed elections nationwide to make irrelevant and obsolete fundraising from large corporations and the wealthy. And this is why I always come back to what happened to them talking about ending Citizens United. Let's go on. Let's go on. That's why I bring that back, because that's really important. Implementing instant runoff voting nationwide in an effort to make third party and independent candidates more viable. Highlight the fuck out of that one. You see this? Implementing instant runoff voting nationwide in an effort to make third party and independent candidates more viable. So when you hear people like Kyle and Jink and all these other people shit on third parties and say they're not viable, make sure you redirect them back to their own rhetoric, which is something that the Justice Democrats was supposed to do. But they point fingers at us. They call us names. All of a sudden, they forgot what they fucking wrote. I don't. This was on their project. Assura, so Kyle gave up. Basically, this is why we're in the position we're in now, because this piece was never implemented. So when people call us nihilists and say we just want to give up or we're being mean, no, you need to go back and look at the project and how it was defined. Mousted said, Sabby holding their feet to the fire. Yeah, I'm sorry. I'm sorry. Cryosynth said Kyle found his money, honey. They're both millionaires. They're both millionaires. Listen, implementing the Buffett rule, ending offshore financial centers, the capital gains and income taxes, and increasing the estate tax, making the minimum wage a living wage and tying it to inflation. Pardoning Edward Snowden. You guys see all this stuff? Passing the Paycheck Fairness Act. Abolishing U.S. immigration and customs enforcement. Abolish ICE. Reforming police by mandating body cameras, establishing community oversight boards, eliminating broken window policing, ending stop and frisk, and appointing special prosecutors to hold police accountable in courts. I'm not even going to touch the policing one because we all know that has not been improved. This is hilarious looking back at this. Renegotiating CAFTA, DR, and NAFTA and opposing permanent normal trade relations with China and the World Trade Organization. Stopping any reductions to Social Security, Medicare, Medicaid, and establishing single-payer universal health care. Here it is again. Stopping anthropogenic climate change through an ecological revolution and upholding the United States participation in the Paris Climate Agreement. Uncompromisingly rejecting President Trump's immigration proposals, policies, particularly executive order and deportation of illegal immigrants. And you know what's interesting? It says reject Trump's immigration proposal policies, but Joe Biden kept some of those same policies. This is to remind you what they're actually supposed to be doing. And although they signed this pledge, there was no accountability if they didn't do it. And the same people who organized this organization or started this organization want to tell you to be nice to them. What have they done on that list? Interesting, huh? That's what's supposed to be happening, you guys, and it's not happening. They've been there a couple years now. It's not like they just started last year. EMK says Justice Dems are a lost cause. Absolutely. Absolutely. And this goes back to them not speaking out about the funding for Ukraine, which technically, if I'm looking at this list, they should be doing. Let me go to some of the comments here. Thank you for the super chat, Justin B. Totally love Jose for calling out AOC. We need anti-war voices in Congress. Would Jose and other activists be willing to help us get anti-war candidate Matthew Ho elected to U.S. Senate in North Carolina? I can ask him. I think I can DM. Yeah, I can DM Jose and ask him. I can do that. I can do that. Okay, and then I do just want to show the Democratic Socialist problem. And there's just one piece here I want to show. Right here. This piece. So when we talk about them being socialists per se, what does that actually mean? Now, there's a piece here from the Harvard Political Review. I'm not going to read the entire article, but I do want to highlight this piece here because I do think that this is important. But while comparing Sanders' beliefs to those of the most extreme socialist dictatorships may not be good in faith, the senator to some degree invited these comparisons by adopting the moniker of a democratic socialist. Indeed, many Capitol Hill progressives have embraced the term. Core to the platform espoused by contemporary American democratic socialists are policies like Medicare for All and Green New Deal. Now, listen to this part. This is the part I think people need to pay attention to. Socialist, not quite. There's only one problem. The policies of contemporary American democratic socialists aren't really socialist at all. Given that the word is constantly being manipulated and reinterpreted, there is no one true definition of socialism. But one of the central tenets of a pure form of socialism revolves around workers seizing the means of production from corporations. In socialist states, this process often involves nationalizing and socializing industries. While many of the proposed democratic socialist policies in the U.S. would certainly lead to increased influence of the government in the economy and regulation and industry, few directly involve workers gaining control of the economy. Let's highlight this right here. And this is part of the problem. A lot of times I hear people refer to the squad and Bernie Sanders as socialists. technically, they're not socialist. What is missing there, and that's what they point out in this article, what is missing is few directly involved workers gaining control of the economy. So when you look at the policies that are present and the ones that I long ass list, I just went through for you of what the Justice Democrats are supposed to be doing. Where's the piece where the workers gain control of the economy? Where's the piece, and I'll highlight this as well. Here we go. Right there. Where's the piece where the workers are seizing the means of production? It's not there. So I think there's a bunch of different things that have gone on here. We got people going around calling themselves socialists that technically are not socialists. And this piece about seizing the means of production, the workers doing that, is very crucial. And that was not a part of the Justice Democrats platform. So what that means is that at the end of the day, they're just Democrats. Where Pilgrim says social-ish. Oh man, I can't do it. You guys are cracking me up tonight. Oh man, that's oh man, I got the nerdy laugh going on tonight. I don't know what's happening. Just us Democrats. That's right, Jay. Bring it on home, Jay. Bring it on home. I'm such a nerd. Oh boy. Thank you so much for the super chat, Derek. Cornell West pointed out that Bernie wasn't a socialist years ago in this video. But thank you so much for that, Derek. Well. Ashira said social democrat equals just a regular Democrat. Jared said AOC is a social mediaist. You guys got jokes tonight.